IXL Section EE.2, Simplify Radical Expressions with Variables. This IXL is the same as EE1, except now we're adding variables to your problems, okay? So the only thing that should be new is dealing with the variables, which I'll go over right now, okay? Este IXL es lo mismo que hicimos en el IXL EE1. La única diferencia es que ahora también tenemos variables debajo del signo radical. All right, so let me do the first example here. All right, first let me write the whole thing here. We have 45p to the 10th power, the square root of 45p to the 10th power. Okay, now the 45, you should know how to do that already. That would be 9 times 5. And you get the square root of 9, which is 3. So the 3 goes outside the box, and the 5 stays inside the box. Okay, let's look at the p now. The square root of p to the 10th power. Okay, the square root of p to the 10th power, that means what number times the same number equals p to the 10th power. Now, you got to realize that when it comes to variables and exponents, you could break it up like this. P to the 5th power times p to the 5th power equals p to the 10th power. Because remember that when you have exponents, you add them. When you multiply when you multiply terms where the bases are the same, all right? Like in this case, they both have the letter p, and they have exponents. All you do is add the exponents. So the square root of p to the 10th power would be p to the 5th power. So my answer here would be 3p to the 5th power square root of 5. That's how you would write it. Because you broke up p to the 10th power into p to the 5th power times p to the 5th power. So just like it's basically the same concept as with the number. If you could get the square root of it, it goes outside the box or outside the radical sign. And whatever you cannot get the square root of, it stays underneath the radical sign. Okay, así que es el mismo concepto que hicimos con los números. Okay, con el variable p a la 10. P a la 10 le puedo coger la raíz cuadrada porque se tiene que dar cuenta que P a la 10 se puede romper en P a la 5 por P a la 5. Se le puede coger la raíz cuadrada a P a la 10 porque P a la 5 por P a la 5 me da P a la 10. Recuerden que cuando están multiplicando con exponentes y las bases son iguales, se suma los exponentes. Así que P a la 5 por P a la 5 te da P a la 10. Le cojo la raíz cuadrada de P a la 10, que es P a la 5, y lo pongo afuera del signo radical. Y si hay algo que no le puedo coger la raíz cuadrada, eso se mantiene debajo del signo radical. Let's look at the next example. Okay, el próximo ejemplo. So square root of 20 x to the 5th power. All right, so again, the 20 is easy, or it should be easy. By now, you do 4 times 5. The square root of 4 is 2. And I can't do anything with the square root of 5, so the 5 stays underneath the radical sign, okay? But let's look at x to the 5th power. Okay, x to the 5th power, I could break it up into x to the 4th power times x to the 1st power, right? Because again, you add the exponents. And if I break it up into x to the 4th power times x to the 1st power, I could get the square root of x to the 4th power. The square root of x to the 4th power is x to the 2nd power. All right, because x to the 2nd power times x to the 2nd power gives you x to the 4th power. Yo le puedo coger la raíz cuadrada de x a la 4. All right, you know what? I'm trying to think of a way you could do it for... No offense, but some of you that struggle, with this stuff, and may not be like may find it that's too difficult maybe. All right, so let's look at it. Here's another way you can think about it. Right? If you're getting it, I prefer that you think about it the first way I explained it. If you're not getting it, here's another way you can think about it. X to the 5th power means x times x times x times x times x. Okay. All right, this is like for people not getting it, but this is actually more work and slower. All right, but x to the fifth power means this. So just think about it this way: every time that a number or a variable appears twice, that means you can get the square root of it, so it goes outside the box. Okay. So for example, I got these two x's, right? That means that one of them goes outside the box. I got these two x's, so that means that one of them goes outside the box. And I got this x left by itself, so it stays here. Now remember, if there's more than one term outside the box, you got to multiply them together. So this x times this x gives me x squared, and I'm left with this x inside. So basically, I don't want to hear any complaints. Mister, it's too hard. No, it's not too hard. I just showed you how you can figure it out, even if you're not good at this stuff. Okay? I'll do it again for another problem or two. I'll show it the best way and the slow way. All right? But I just showed you that you could do it even if you're not that great at this stuff. Okay, así que, let me say all that in Spanish. El 20 ya lo deben saber cómo hacer. Lo rompo en 4 por 5. Le cojo la raíz cuadrada de 4, que es 2, y lo escribo afuera. Y este 5 no puedo hacer nada con este 5, así que lo mantengo debajo del signo radical. Ahora, x a la 5. Ok, primero hice la manera que lo deben hacer o que deben pensar de x a la 5. Lo puedo romper en x a la 4 por x a la 1. Y le puedo coger la raíz cuadrada de x a la 4, que sería x a la 2, porque x a la 2 por x a la 2 te da x a la 4. Ok, it's like a tongue twister. Ok, así que le cojo la raíz cuadrada de x a la 4, que es x a la 2, y lo escribo afuera del signo radical. Ahora, si no entienden eso, o creen que eso es complicado, o no lo ven claramente, aquí tengo otra forma que lo pueden hacer, ¿ok? X a la 5 quiere decir x por x por x por x por x, ¿ok? Ahora, cada vez que sale un término dos veces, quiere decir que lo tiene que sacar para fuera del signo radical. Así que aquí hay 2x, así que saqué un x para afuera. Porque eso significa x a la 2 y la raíz cuadrada de x a la 2 es x a la 1. Aquí hay 2 más x, así que saqué otra x más para fuera del signo radical. Y al final me quedó una x aquí, así que hay un x debajo del signo radical. Ahora estos dos x que están afuera del signo radical los multiplico juntos y me dan x a la 2. Y tengo todavía este x debajo del signo radical. Así que otra vez, aquí está mi respuesta final. I forgot to add this x over here. Se me olvidó poner esta x. Okay, so here's my final answer. Aquí está mi respuesta final, simplificado. Guys, these IXLs are really good and really useful for the type of stuff you're going to see on exams. All right, these are like basic algebra concepts that you need to get. Okay, estos IXLs son muy importantes porque se usan mucho y son conceptos básicos de álgebra que tienen que entender. All right, so here's our next few examples, all right? So let me first deal with the 27. 27, I break it up into 9 times 3. The square root of 9 is 3. And this 3 I can't do anything with, so it stays underneath the radical sign. Now t to the 6th power, I could break it up into t to the 3rd times t to the 3rd. So that means the square root of t to the 6th power is t to the 3rd power. And there's my answer. For the people that don't see that, let's do it the slow way. This means t times t times t times t times t times t. If anybody's not paying attention, they're going to be like, what? What is he doing? All right, so that's what t to the 6th power means. So again, if it appears twice, you take one of them outside the radical sign. Si aparece dos veces, saco una de las t para afuera. Okay, so this one appears twice, so here's another one outside. This one appears twice, here's another one outside. When you multiply all three of those t's together, you get right there, t to the 3rd power. All right, moving on to the next one. 18 to the square root of 18 p to the 5th power. So the 18, break it up into 9 times 2. The square root of 9 is 3. And this 2, I can't do anything with it, so it stays underneath the radical sign. P to the 5th power, the smartest way to break it up would be P to the 4th power times P to the 1st power. P to the 4th power, the square root is P to the 2nd power, because P to the 2nd times P to the 2nd is P to the 4th. And this P I could not do anything with, so it gets left underneath the radical sign, okay? So here's my simplified answer. For the people that don't see the P part, the square root of P to the 5th power, that means P times P times P times P times P. All right, so again, if it appears twice, that means that it goes outside the radical sign. So these two P's, I'm trying to avoid saying the letter P repeated. All right, so these two P's mean one P, go outside. All right. Sorry, guys, but after teaching middle school and high school for so many years, you can't help but anticipate what some students are going to say. All right, so these two P's appear, so one of them goes outside. These two P's appear, so another one of them goes outside. And this remaining P stays here. So this is P to the 2nd power on the outside and P to the 1st power on the inside. All right, so there's my answer. Let's move on. All right, let's move at a quicker pace here. Square root of 20, j to the 6th power. So 20, I break it up into 4 times 5. The square root of 4 is 2. And the 5 I cannot do anything with. J to the 6th power, I could break it up into j to the 3rd power times j to the 3rd power. So that means that the square root of j to the 6th power is j to the 3rd power. And here's my answer for this one. All right, let me do the next one in Spanish. Okay, en español, la raíz cuadrada de 50 d a la 2. Ok, así que 50, la manera más rápida sería 25 por 2. La raíz cuadrada de 25 es 5. No puedo hacer nada con este 2, así que se mantiene debajo del signo radical. Y d a la 2 quiere decir d por d. Así que la raíz cuadrada de d a la 2 sería d. Así que pongo una d afuera del signo radical y aquí tengo mi respuesta final. All right, over here, square root of 18w to the 3rd power. All right, so 18, I break it up into 9 times 2. The square root of 9 is 3. And the 2 I cannot do anything with. W to the 3rd power, I break it up into w to the 2nd power times w to the 1st power. W to the 2nd power, I could get the square root of. The square root of w to the 2nd power is w. And this lone w stays by itself, lonely, underneath the radical sign. Well, not lonely, he's got the number 2 to keep him company. All right, and let me do this one in Spanish. La raíz cuadrada de 20y a la 3. Así que 20 lo rompo en 4 por 5. Y la raíz cuadrada de 4 es 2. Pero el 5 no lo puedo hacer nada, así que se mantiene debajo del signo radical. Y a la 3 lo puedo romper en y a la 2 por y. Y la raíz cuadrada de y a la 2 es y, porque y por y es y a la 2. Y esta y se mantiene aquí debajo del signo radical. Let me just see how many examples I got here. All right, way too many. All right, let me jump to the harder, if there are any examples. All right, let me jump to here, because otherwise I think all the examples I put are pretty similar. So to save time, these are the type that you're going to get towards the end and in the challenge zone. Okay. Ahora voy a hacer los ejemplos que salen cuando están cerca al final o en el challenge zone, ¿ok? All right, so the first one. All right, so the square root of 350 t to the third power u to the 10th power. All right, so 350, I could break it up into 35 times 10. 35, I could break it up into 7 times 5, which are prime numbers. And 10, I could break it up into 5 times 2. All right, that tells me, when I see those two fives, that tells me that what I should have done, what would have been quicker, would have been 25 times 14. All right, but I didn't realize that. So anyways, there's two fives, so that means that one 5 goes outside the radical sign, and the 7 and the 2 stay underneath, creating a 14. All right, now t to the third power, I could break it up into t to the second power times t to the first power. The square root of t to the second power is t, and the t to the first power stays underneath the radical sign. And the u to the 10th power, I could break it up into u to the 5th power times u to the 5th power. So that means that the square root of u to the 10th power is u to the 5th power. And that is my simplified answer. All right, let me go to this example over here. The square root of 45 s to the 10th power t to the 6th power. All right, so 45, I'm going to break it up into 9 times 5. The square root of 9 is 3, and the remaining 5 stays underneath the radical sign. S to the 10th power is s to the 5th times s to the 5th. So the square root of s to the 10th power is s to the 5th power. And t to the 6th power, I could break it up into t to the 3rd times t to the 3rd. So the square root of t to the 6th power is t to the 3rd power. And there's my final answer. Let me do this one in Spanish. La raíz cuadrada de 75, r a la 8, s a la 5. Así que para 75 lo rompo en 25 por 3. La raíz cuadrada de 25 es 5. Y este 3 se mantiene debajo del signo radical. R a la 8 lo puedo romper en R a la 4 por R a la 4. Así que la raíz cuadrada de R a la 8 es R a la 4. Y S a la 5 lo puedo romper a S a la 4 por S a la 1. Así que la raíz cuadrada de S a la 4 sería S a la 2. Porque S a la 2 por S a la 2 te da S a la 4. Y esta S se mantiene debajo del signo radical. Okay, and this will be the last example I'm going to do, guys. The square root of 63, p to the 7th, q to the 4th. So the 63, I could break it up into 9 times 7 to get the square root of 9, which is 3. And the 7 stays underneath the radical sign. P to the 7th power, I could break it up into p to the 6th power times p to the 1st power. The square root of p to the 6th power is p to the 3rd power, and this p to the 1st power stays underneath the radical sign. And then q to the 4th power, I could break it up into q squared times q squared. So that means that the square root of q to the 4th power is q to the 2nd power. And there's my simplified answer. You know what? Let me do one more just in case, okay? Just in case anybody needs it. I'm going to do this one and that'll be the last example, okay? Este va a ser el último ejemplo. All right, so 4 times the square root of 490, a to the 9th power, b to the 6th power, okay? So 490, I'm going to break it up into 49 times 10. The square root of 49 is 7. So that 7 goes outside the radical sign, and I'm going to have to multiply it with this 4. The 10, when I break it up into 2 times 5, I'm not going to be able to do anything with it. So the 10 is going to stay here. A to the 9th power, I could break it up into a to the 8th power times a to the 1st power. The square root of a to the 8th power is a to the 4th power. And this a to the 1st power stays here. And then last b to the 6th power, I could break it up into b to the 3rd power times b to the 3rd power. So the square root of b to the 6th power is b to the 3rd power. When I multiply all this that's outside the radical sign, I'm going to get 28 a to the 4th b to the 3rd square root of 10a. And there's my final simplified answer, okay? Alright guys, that concludes this lesson. Remember the IXL assignments are due by 6 a.m. of the next day that you have my class. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you guys next class.